When it comes to planting trees, fall's an absolute perfect time. Here in North Texas, we still have enough warmth left in the year to provide enough soil moisture where this tree will keep growing for a long time. And so if we can get it established good right now, it'll last through the winter and then it'll thrive come spring. Planting trees is not rocket science. All you need are a few basic tools and practice a few simple techniques to make sure this tree gets off to a good start. So my first consideration is the hole. And when I'm digging a hole for a tree, all I'm doing is taking a look at the pot the tree comes in and digging my hole about twice as wide. That way the roots have plenty of room to spread out. And then the second thing I'm going to be concerned about is the depth of the hole. Now, I don't want to dig this as deep as this tree is planted. In fact, I want to dig this hole that's just deep enough to contain about the bottom 3/4 of this root ball. And I'll leave about the top 2 or 3 inches of the root ball sticking up out so I can mound dirt back to it. Now, once I have my hole dug, the next thing I'll do is put a little fertilizer on the bottom. Now, I don't know if this is absolutely necessary, but I put a little fertilizer in the bottom and then top dress the hole with fertilizer once I get the dirt back in. And that way it'll feed the tree as the tree gets started growing and establishing roots in the soil. Now, I don't use a synthetic fertilizer. I like using all natural fertilizer. That way I don't have any chance of burning up the roots or burning up the tree by putting on too much fertilizer. So I'll just put about a cup or so in the bottom, top dress the top with a cup or two, and then once I water it in good, it'll feed that tree for a while to come. Okay, I think this part is pretty important. Before you just jerk the tree out of the container it came in, I like to lay it on its side and kind of mash around on the container. Those containers are pretty pliable, and so they've got some give to them. So if you'll mash around, you'll make sure any roots that are stuck to the bottom or anything else will come free before you pull it out of there. And that way the roots don't get ripped out when you take the tree out. And then once I remove the tree from the container, all I'll do then is kind of work the roots and get them loosened up from the root ball and then place them in the hole and then start putting dirt back around it. Now you can see when I place the tree down in the whole tree doesn't go down into the hole. I've still got about that much of the root ball sticking out of the top of the hole. And the reason for that is, if you think about how Mother Nature plants a tree, it drops the seed on the ground, that seed sprouts from the ground, and then the tree starts growing up from there. So if you look at really big trees, they have this elephant foot looking feature at the bottom where the tree is pretty uniform, and then it tapers out at the bottom, and that's called the root flare. And the one thing you don't want to do, because it'll affect the health of your tree, is don't bury that root flare. So by leaving the top of this tree out of the ground a little bit, we can fill in dirt back to it to provide a slope where the water will drain away from it. We'll ensure we don't bury that root flare, and then that'll help our tree get established better and help it have a long, healthy life. So once I got the tree in and I filled the dirt around it, you'll notice that I didn't just tamp the dirt in hard. I just kind of lightly pressed it with my feet. Really what I'm trying to do is get it packed in there. I'm trying to make the tree resistant to any kind of wind that's going to blow. I know some people like to stake their trees out when they first plant them. I'm not really a fan of that. I like to think the tree ought to be able to grow its roots and stand on its own and be able to provide that strength for itself and not rely on any kind of guy wires to do that for it. So I tamp the soil down lightly just to fill in any gaps, and again, make sure the tree won't blow over if we get a big wind in the next day or two. And then after this, really the last steps are to top dress it with a little more fertilizer. I like putting mulch over the soil because mulch helps you retain moisture, and then I'll cover more mulch over this disturbed soil, and once the mulch is there, I'll just water it in good. And then from there, every few days, just monitor the water, monitor the health of the tree. If the leaves start looking dry, give it water. If you'll keep that mulch on there, that mulch again will help retain moisture, and your moisture won't evaporate out of this bare soil. And so really for me now, every 2 or 3 days, I'm going to go back and water it. And when I check the soil moisture, all I do is put my finger in it. If it feels wet and moist, it's probably got enough moisture. If it feels dry, I'm going to water it again. And if I'll do that and check on this tree every few days, I can ensure this tree is going to start rooting itself in, and then be able to go dormant when it starts getting cold around here. And then after a winter season's over, it'll bud again in the spring. It'll provide beautiful shade, and this thing will be here for years to come.